You're listening to Quantum Conversations with Karen Curry Parker. Join us as we explore new frontiers in consciousness, science, and evolution. And now here's your host, Karen Curry Parker.
Science shows us that the heart literally has its own brain. It has an intelligence that informs the rest of the body and the mind about what is true and what isn't. We can feel truth in our hearts. Heart intelligence, also known as HQ or heart IQ, is a higher level of awareness that arises when you are able to integrate your physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual intelligence. When fully embodied and integrated, heart intelligence gives you the ability to fully rest, be present, connected, and heart-directed in every area of your life so that you can experience greater levels of performance, creativity, intuition, and higher order thinking. What if the heart holds the key to helping us access a deeper state of alignment, peace, and clarity? HeatherAsh Amara believes that it does. In her new book, The Warrior Heart Practice, HeatherAsh lays out a revolutionary system based on the four-chambered structure of the human heart. Walking through each of the four chambers, feeling, story, truth, and intent, readers learn to take stock of their current emotional and mental state and reframe their situation in a new healing light. The Warrior Heart Practice leads to deep insights as readers learn to step outside of their preconceptions to realign with their true purposes and goals, helping them tap into the true intelligence of the heart. Join me for this heartful quantum conversation with HeatherAsh Amara. Hi, and welcome to Quantum Conversations. I'm Karen Curry Parker, and I am so excited today to have someone who's been on our show a couple of times, HeatherAsh Amara, talking about her brand new book and the Warrior Heart Practice. And we've talked that you're an incredibly prolific writer. Heather brings with her experience and her knowledge and her open-hearted, inclusive worldview, a blend of Toltec wisdom you've studied with and worked with and taught with Don Miguel Ruiz, European shamanism, Buddhism, and Native American ceremony, and woven it into this incredible practice, evolving practice, because this is sort of, I think, the peak of a lot of the work that you've done that sort of led up to this, an evolving practice of personal transformation and growth. In her new book, The Warrior Heart Practice, she introduces a powerful new method to reconnect with your sense of authenticity and realign with your true nature. Welcome, HeatherAsh. It's so good to have you here again.
Thanks, Karen. So good to be with you.
So, all right, we're just going to dive right in. What is the Warrior Heart Practice? What is this, and how is this different than some of the work you've done before?
I first downloaded the practice, we can say. I was talking to a friend of mine who was really suffering and had a story that he would tell, and anytime anybody would listen, he would tell this terrible story of the thing that had happened to him and how much it had hurt him. And about the third round of him telling me this story and me reflecting back to him, honey, that's not exactly what happened. I was there. Here's actually the truth. And he just couldn't hear it. He would keep going back into suffering. And so at a certain point, I just opened my arms and my heart and prayed. I said, is there any way I can help this man, this person that I love so much? And this process dropped in. And it's really a process to help people to untangle their feelings from their stories and their stories from the truth, and use their intent then to start cleaning up our lives. And I think about it that the heart has four chambers. And so the Warrior Heart Practice also has four chambers, and that all chambers are important. They help bring life to us. They help reoxygenate our system. And so anytime that you're triggered or upset or find yourself struggling or in a story, you start in the feeling chamber. What am I feeling? Then you move to the story chamber. What's the story I'm telling myself? the truth chamber, what's actually true here. And then intent, what is my intent? What do I want? And then you circle back through the chambers. You take your intent and your truth, and I imagine that you hold hands with them, and go back into the story to see how else you can perceive the story. And then we always end the process in the feeling chamber, so that we really learn how to come back into our bodies and use our bodies as wisdom and as guides.
Beautiful.
So that's a quick overview.
So, okay, so we're going to have to dive in a little bit on what is a story, because I have found in the 35 years that I worked as a coach that, and I'm not talking about people as if this doesn't happen to me too. We get stuck in stories, you know.
We get stuck in stories.
and I keep telling my husband, I'm like, you have stories and you kind of like them, because if you didn't like them, you wouldn't keep retelling it the way that you do.
Yeah.
He does not like it when I say that. But, you know, I always go back to when I got divorced, this was many, many, many years ago, different husband, different time frame. You know, I caught myself about a year after my divorce. I had this ritual that, you know, I would kind of rush the kids to bed. And I had like this one, like Dave Matthews sad song. And I would turn on that sad song and get my glass of wine, and I would sit in the story. And I finally realized that I was like ritualizing this weird story that I had that was very painful. But, you know, I think the question that I want to ask you is, how do we own our story? I mean, this part of my life, this divorce part of my life, it was a very catalytic process that I went through. And I love the story now, because I know I wouldn't be who I am today without having gone through this experience. But how do we own the story and not be a continued victim of a story? How do we get from point A to point B on that one?
Yeah, and that is the question. And the first thing is to realize you're telling yourself a story. And like you said, like that, when you were doing that process of like your ritual of sitting in the story, like we just don't even realize we're doing it to ourselves. We think this is just what is. I'm in this amount of pain. This is exactly what happened. And the truth is that we're telling ourselves stories constantly. Almost any time we're thinking, we're telling ourselves a story because we're describing something. And what we're learning to do is become empowered storytellers rather than our story telling us who we're supposed to be. So if you can think about all the ways that you have, you know, I'll just start naming things like a story that you should be perfect, that I just wrote a posted it because I realized I started telling myself a story. I should be able to do this all on my own, which is ridiculous. I'm doing a book launch and I'm like, I'll get the hors d'oeuvres. Don't worry about it. And so that's a story. The stories that we say I'm not smart enough, that they don't like me because, I mean, our minds are so creative in what we do with our stories. And so the first step is to really start to become aware and get curious about your stories. Rather than what most of us do is we become aware of our stories and then we judge ourselves that we have a story, which is another story. So
aren't we interesting?
Yeah. Get curious. I like be an archaeologist and start to explore what are the layers of the story. And where we create the most suffering, and what you explained so beautifully, is the places that we get the feelings and the stories tied together. So we have a story, we tell ourselves a story, the story creates an emotion, the emotion feels yucky in our body, so then we make up more of a story to understand why we're having that emotion, and they just go back and forth. And most of us live tangled with the story and the feeling. And we either cycle the feelings, or we have a story that we shouldn't have feelings, so we try and repress the feelings, which never goes well, because they always come out sideways. Always.
So you have this process that you've crafted. You've got these 4 themes. You've got feelings, story, truth, and intent. Can you walk us through an example of like, how would you go through this process? If you're stuck, you catch yourself, you bust yourself in a story. What do you do?
Yes, exactly. Well, I'll share just recently for me. So I've been exhausted. I've been, birthing something new. And it's a lot of times when we're exhausted, we haven't eaten, that our stories can really start to show up, which is actually good in a way, because you can catch yourself, bust yourself in it. So yesterday I felt really, really emotional. I'm on a plane and I stopped and was like, all right, sweetie, what's going on? And the first thing I did is just ask myself, what are you feeling? What's the feeling sense in the body? Closed my eyes, went towards the feeling sense. And there was a mixture of sadness and elation and joy and exhaustion, all mixed together. And so what I found with the process is you just sit with each of the different emotions. Okay, where's the sadness in the body? Breathe into the sadness. And I had it up in my chest. I just breathed into my chest. Hi, sadness. Where's the elation? Because it's mixed. It can be mixed up. So sat with all the emotions. And then I went into the story. And when you go into the story chamber, again, when you're doing the feelings, you want to just have the feelings without the story, which takes practice. Because often, again, they're hooked together. But you just practice, just be with the sadness. There's nothing to do. There's nothing to change. There's nothing to fix. Feel. And then you go into the story and be honest. What's actually going on in your head? What are you thinking? And so I started looking at the story, and the story was, a combo of like, this has been so hard and so wonderful. It's taken me so long to get this book into the world. And as I sat with it, because what triggered is somebody had asked me, can I help you tomorrow? I'll drive to New York. I'll get the hors d'oeuvres. I'll get everything for you. And my response was, no, I'll do it. And I had to go, what? Okay, something's going on, right? And so I looked at the story, and the story was, I need to do all of this myself. I'm asking too many people for too many things right now. So I have to handle all of it. And it's an old story. It's not a new story. It's an old story of, I need to control everything. I need to do everything to feel safe. So I just sat with, oh yeah, hi, old story's back. And again, that willingness to go through the layers of what else is underneath it, what else is there. And then I stepped into the truth chamber. And most of us, when we step into the truth chamber, what we do is we write a better story and we call it the truth. And I watched myself do that a little bit, like, oh, well, it's easy for me to get the hors d'oeuvres. And I looked at that and I'm like, that's actually a story. This is not going to be easy for me. Like I have so many other things happening. That's just not easy. It's a story. But what's the truth? The truth is I could use help, period. And how you know the difference between a truth and a story is the truth is simple. And also there's a relaxation in the body. The body just goes, yeah. Because the wise part of us knows what's true. Our mind tries to make the story to keep us safe or to keep us, whatever it wants to do. But the body, your wisdom knows what's truth. And there's no justification. There's no trying to understand it. There's just this oh yeah, so I could use help, period. Good. And then I went to the intent chamber. And my intent is ease. I just want to I want to be able to show up fully at these different launch parties. So ease, presence. So then I went back through, and the going back through is really the key because again, you're getting these new allies. So now I have an ally of ease and the allies of I need help, period. And then I went back into the story and it was let people help you, sweetheart. You feel vulnerable right now. And that's what I realized. I'm feeling vulnerable. Of course I'm feeling vulnerable. I'm launching a book. It's always, it's in a way, it's like taking all your clothes off and standing in public when you launch a book because it's so vulnerable. I was like, right, of course I feel this way. And so that I could just go and honor the tenderness of this time. So that's a simple overview of how the process can work. And that literally took me, 5 minutes maybe to just go through and unwind it.
I love that. And I love how you talk about really recognizing the story. And I really think it's important. And I think there's so much brilliance in this awareness that you just shared of knowing when you're rationalizing a better story.
Yes.
And I think that's always such an interesting clue to help you key into how deep is the story. So I have another question about stories because you said, oh, here it is, same old story. There's an expression that I heard one time from this woman who I was coaching, who was this beautiful, older, Southern wise woman. And she said, new level, same devil. Do you find that when you up level, so to speak, does the old story come back in a different disguise or a different way?
Exactly. Yeah. The truth is that we don't have that many core stories. Like, I believe as humans, we have maybe 3. I'm not lovable, I'm not good enough, and I'm broken. And we tend to have those because it's part of the dream that we're in right now, the way that we're domesticated. And then we get creative, but our kind of our next level stories are just always connected to those. And they're either around perfection, around not asking for help, around the world isn't safe. I mean, there's just that next level that each of us then create from our experiences, for sure, but also from just the way that we perceive the world, or what we've taken on from our parents or our culture or the peers or our religion. And then we can get really creative. And so the really creative part for me is the way that we'll take an experience in our life and twist it so it's reflecting an old story. So it matches, it aligns with the old story. And we're geniuses at this, right? We can perceive something and selective evidence gather and pull in exactly what we think the story is supposed to be based on our history. So we're not even in the present.
So, well, I can imagine this is why the truth chamber is so important.
Yeah.
So.
Yes, and learning to go towards the truth. And, part of why I shared the story that happened yesterday for me is it's an ongoing process. It's not that you do it once and you're done and you're good. It's that as you said, like as we up level, sometimes it gets more and more subtle. And so that willingness to be honest and go through the process and separate it out, because the mind is like, oh yeah, you know the story, you don't have to worry about it. Just jump to the truth sometimes. And you can't, it doesn't work to bypass. You might feel better for a little bit, but it's going to pull you back down. Using the method helps you to unwind, to really clear out the story so that you don't keep going back to it over and over again. And if you do go back to it, you realize that you recognize it super quickly. It's like, oh, it's that. Hello, that story. Yeah. And the truth is critical.
Yeah. Beautiful. So why is this work so important on the planet right now?
We are being faced with so many challenges right now, both in our personal lives and also collectively, globally. And in order for us to meet those challenges, we need clarity, we need creativity, we need compassion. When we're in story, all the energy that we could be using to change the world, both our own world and the outside world in creative ways, goes towards maintaining the story. And doesn't allow us to see clearly what's my action, what's my gift in this moment. And so I feel really passionate about people having tools to help them to clear up those past stories so they're completely present in the moment and able to be flexible and open to let the information come through about what their action is or what their stillness needs to be, both of those things.
Beautiful. So I like to always end our conversations with a vision for what you see we are heading towards in the world. So what's up on the planet right now, and what's your vision for the future of the world?
We're in a big paradigm shift right now, and whenever we go through paradigm shifts, there's always a lot of upset. And so the vision I've had is of this huge storm on the ocean that is churning. And that what we need, the vision is that for all of us to realize we're all in the same boat together, truly. And that also, if we're going to jump to the next level, we have to have an intent to point ourselves towards. And so each of us individually to get clear about what do I want to put my energy towards. And for me, it's about love. It's about loving the challenges. It's about loving ourselves and each other fiercely so that we can come together and work together for also our love of the planet. So that is my vision, is that we all are able to bring our love of the planet, each other, to be creative in crafting the solutions that are needed right now.
Beautiful. Thank you. So Heather Ash's book, The Warrior Heart Practice, you can get it on Amazon. And if you go to her website, HeatherAshAmara.com, you can learn more about programs that she has to offer. You've got launches happening all over the country, right?
Yes.
Or all over the world. And of course, connect more deeply with Heather Ash's amazing work, her whole body of work. I think you publish a book a year, don't you?
Something like that. This is the eighth book. So,
well, congratulations and best of luck on your launch tonight. And thank you so much for joining us and for sharing this really powerful body of work. What a great and easy thing to be able to do just in 5 minutes to shift your perspective and change the way you create your world and the world around you. So thank you.
Thanks, Karen.
According to the Institute of Heart Math, their research has discovered that the human heart has approximately 40,000 neurocells. This means that the heart has its own nervous system, which actually sends more information to the brain than the brain sends to the heart. From a biophysical perspective, every heart contraction creates a wave that pushes blood through the veins and arteries, providing the energetic signal that helps synchronize all the cells of the body, including the brain. From a hormonal perspective, the heart is a hormone-producing endocrine gland, producing ANF to control blood pressure, adrenaline, dopamine, and oxytocin, the love hormone. Oxytocin reduces fear, increases eye contact, and increases trust and generosity. From the electromagnetic perspective, the heart's electromagnetic field is 5,000 times more powerful than the brain's. Our heart's electromagnetic field expands and touches those within 8 to 25 feet of where we are positioned. If we embody and live from heart in a way that allows us to live from the heart of who we are, the truth of who we are, it seems to be that not only do we improve our own state of well-being, but we amplify our ability to increase the quality of well-being for others. Through the power of questioning the appearance of our reality and connecting with our hearts, we have the ability to uncover deeper truths and to break free from old conditioned patterns that keep us stuck in limiting and even divisive and victimized perspectives. If the heart knows what sometimes the brain cannot, at least initially, it seems to me that connecting to the heart is vital for us to create not only personal peace, but it is the lodestone of creating a world of peace. Want to discover how to lead from the heart of who you truly are? Get your free human design chart and report at freehumandesignchart.com. When you use your heart as the compass for creating an authentic life, you tap into a deeper, richer intelligence that has the power to transform your life. I'm Karen Curry Parker, inviting you to live from your heart. Thank you for joining me for Quantum Conversations.
Thanks for listening to Quantum Conversations with Karen Curry Parker. For more information, visit joyfulmission.com.